If you're a fan of anime, there is a pretty good chance you've heard of Crunchyroll, our corporate overlord who wishes to make their name synonymous with anime. They're kind of everywhere, sponsoring anime conventions, running articles about the industry, sponsoring anime YouTubers, and of course, hosting anime online. For a time, Crunchyroll was the website to turn to for legal anime streaming, and to this day, there are still many shows that are offered primarily on the platform. I mean, they're hosting every single season of Black Butler, and the newest one being a Crunchyroll exclusive. And they have the movie, or the anime movie. Black Butler fans don't need me to tell them how new this is to have almost the entire anime on one platform, for once. If only they could get the streaming rights to the Book of Murder OVAs. Crunchyroll is still a bit of an anime juggernaut within the US and Western countries, even if other streaming platforms are starting to create some pretty good competition. But one thing that I personally find incredibly interesting about the platform is its history and the journey the website has been on. Did you guys know that Crunchyroll used to be basically an anime pirating website? Hi, my name is Mel, and this is an unnecessarily deep-ish dive into Crunchyroll as a platform, and maybe as a business. Mostly as a platform. Getting its start in 2006, Crunchyroll was initially a for-profit video hosting site that hosted anime and other East Asian media, kind of illegally. Many of the shows uploaded to Crunchyroll were subtitled unofficially by fans, which was fairly common for pirating websites before legal anime streaming became common. Nowadays, it seems like most pirating websites are able to get the subtitles straight from a streaming service. I found this out when Crunchyroll messed up the subtitles for Osomatsu-san in 2017, and all of the pirating websites had the same goof, and I'm not talking about a typo. This was like straight up just the wrong file. Subtitles for a different show altogether. So it was pretty clear to see what had happened there. Anyway, back to the point. Crunchyroll started off in 2006 as something akin to any well-known anime pirating website that we have today. During this era, most fans were watching anime episodes on YouTube in extremely low quality, in 3 or more parts. It was a little rough. Supposedly, Crunchyroll was one of the first websites hosting anime at the high quality of 480p, and if you're really lucky or paid for the higher quality, you could watch it in 720p, which is what most people consider, like, decent. That's how Crunchyroll made their money early on, not by hosting ads like most pirating websites, but by asking for donations that would allow you access to higher quality streams. Using the Wayback Machine, we can see that this is what Crunchyroll looked like in July of 2006. Ignore the unloaded images, that might just be my own internet. But they had anime, of course, and music videos, gaming videos, apparently. And this is very, very different from how Crunchyroll looked in the 2010s, which is honestly kind of interesting. Like, the old logo here, do any of these pages actually work? Sometimes the Wayback Machine, some of the pages will work. This is the anime being uploaded in July of 2006. Elfen Lied, Bleach, Big O, Black Cat, Cowboy Bebop, My Goddess, Air Gear, lots of things. What about, are any of these gonna work? So I was not using Crunchyroll in 2006. Can somebody tell me if these are like just Let's Play videos or like clips from people playing games? I don't think any of these will work. Yeah, that's not gonna work. So, again, I'm so sorry none of the images have loaded, but this is what the website kind of looked like in 2007. We can see here, this is the link to help out and get higher quality videos, and they've also added like dramas, forums. What is the member page? That might be the list of like people who actually pay for a pirating website. But it's basically, it was the same layout. I'm so sorry for how slow this is. Oh, this is where people are posting like AMVs and stuff, I think. They were just posting whatever. That's cool. Member videos. That is so cool. We got the logo this time. That's fun. But it's very similar in 2007 as it was in 2006. There's just more here, which makes sense. Makes so much sense. Crunchyroll gained a lot of attention during this time, but there was concern of legal action being taken. We all know that this is a problem for any pirating website or even just uploading things to YouTube. Copyright takedowns, removing content, and even possibly shutting down a website. We've all seen it happen to the greats like Kiss Anime. At the time, Crunchyroll was pretty much anonymously owned and ran. Not much was known about the people who owned it, but even that anonymity could not protect them from the law. However, at the time, Crunchyroll also allowed for users to upload things like AMVs, and it was speculated that Crunchyroll could have ended up being a social media platform if all of the anime was removed. Which, like, yeah, I guess they had forums, they had places for users to post kind of whatever, and the anime community was very interested in connecting with one another via the internet. So, I mean, like, I guess it could have worked. It would have been different, but it could have worked. At the time, we don't really know who ran the website. It was kind of anonymously owned, but we do know that it was operated out of San Francisco, California. However, the user base was from all over. Singapore, Philippines, and the US were the top 3 countries according to this 2007 article about the website, which I think that's pretty cool. In 2008, Crunchyroll was able to secure a $4 million investment from the company Venrock, despite the less than legal content on the budding streaming website. This did stir up a bit of controversy, but the budding streaming platform took that money and started making moves to go legal. Anime companies in the US like Funimation and Bandai Entertainment had been trying to fight piracy and even kept an eye on Crunchyroll, sending letters of copyright infringement to the site owners. And as they did this, Crunchyroll did remove content, especially as anime series were starting to be licensed and released officially in the US. There was not really as much of a need for fan-made piracy if you could legally access the content you were looking for. Piracy for anime was honestly born out of a lack of accessibility. Ask any person who was a fan of anime in the early 2000s and before. For many series, literally the only way to watch them was through piracy. However, companies like Funimation were making progress in making anime more accessible in the US and other countries outside of Japan. And Crunchyroll decided to join in on building the industry abroad. Crunchyroll was able to secure licensing deals with studios and television stations like Gonzo and TV Tokyo. And in January of 2009, it was announced that Crunchyroll had secured the rights to stream Naruto Shippuden, which was pretty huge. Naruto is super popular, basically always has been, and I remember around this time, like 2009-ish, Naruto Shippuden was airing on Disney XD. However, it was also announced that Crunchyroll would now be committed to removing any material that they did not have the rights to distribute. No longer was Crunchyroll going to be hosting content that infringed on copyright. They were leaving their piracy days behind. Since Crunchyroll had offered a paid premium membership before going legal, it wasn't an issue for the user base to keep that paid model. However, things did change for the free users. Instead of settling for a lower quality, free users were instead shown ads, and a lot of them. By 2013, you'd have pre-roll ads, ads after the opening credits, ads at the halfway mark of the episode, and ads at the end of the episode before the ending credits rolled. I don't know if there were ads post-ending credits, there probably was, I don't know. Each ad spot would take about a minute or two, showing a handful of 15 to 30 second ads, typically. However, in my experience, sometimes this would be the exact same ad repeated a few times each break. I remember one year, I think it was November of 2013, I was binging Anohana, and every single ad break for the entire week of Thanksgiving break for me that year, every single ad break was the exact same 30-second Nestle ad in Spanish, and that was the only ad they showed me for an entire week. I might have been going a little crazy. Premium users did also get new episodes the day they aired in Japan, or at least got them first, while free users had to wait about a week or so. This is how I used to live, and I was honestly super fine with it at the time. I and many other anime fans were just happy to have a place that was easy to access and not going to crash the family computer. There was also a mobile app, so that was pretty convenient, and I was sitting there watching anime for free on my iPod Touch after school when I was in high school. I don't think this is gonna work out very well for us, but as you can already see, it is completely different. Completely different. Can I refresh this? Nope, that's just what it looks like. Okay. Okay, let me try a different one. I know for a fact that this is probably not what the website looked like in 2008, but I also know in 2008, sometimes websites just kind of messed up like this. This happened to me all the time as a kid. But anyway, one thing I want to point out is there's like a sign up and log in button, which that wasn't there before, and then there's like mini games, Crunchyland avatars. Yeah, these don't exist anymore. I don't think they lasted very long. But there's lots of like news and discussion, and Crunchyroll still does like have news articles on their website. So I guess that got started in 2008, which is pretty cool. It might have been there before and I'm just now noticing it, but there's a lot more like user activity that can be seen on this poorly archived page. Oh, this one has 6 snapshots. Let's try one of the older ones, or the later ones. This looks more correct. Okay, so this was from 2009. You can see something went wrong. Video has been removed. Okay. It kind of looks similar to what it did in 2006, 2007, now that we can actually see the website layout. But the little star thing, I'm pretty sure that's like their premium. Like, you pay to see these episodes. Early access. Right. The early access model is something that they used up until, like, this past year or last year. I think that went away in 2023. Yeah, so they changed the design 6 months prior to this February 2009 thing. But you can see there's a lot of like discussion posts, and they're posting anime. A lot of the tabs that they had up here before are gone, but they still have anime and drama and the forums. And now that I actually clicked, oh, the forums, you could talk about stuff, that makes sense. Wild to me that they had mini games in 2009, because when I started using Crunchyroll, like, frequently, I do not think mini games existed anymore. Yeah, the anime membership is their premium. Okay, yeah. But 2013 is when I started using Crunchyroll, and see, it's like a cleaned up, more polished version of what it looked like a couple years prior. It's essentially the same layout, and it's, like, not much has changed. I mean, they have Attack on Titan now, which, where was that? Yeah, they have Attack on Titan now, and they're trying to do manga at this point. Still lots of forum discussions. There's nothing to say about this. It's basically the same as the last one we looked at. Oh no, 2016 is exactly the same. Okay. Yeah, so they found a layout that they liked, and they stuck with it for several years. Oh my gosh, I forgot Super Lovers came out in 2016. I was in college at this point. Crunchyroll pretty much kept that same layout design for several years until they changed it to this one that kind of mimics Netflix, and also how Crunchyroll looks on the mobile app. And I think it looked like this on the mobile app for far longer than it did. If you scroll, you have to scroll through all of the suggestions before you get to any news, and there is no user activity to be seen. It just goes right back into new releases, things that just got updated. and just different categories, a lot like how Netflix sets up their basically homepage, not the enemies to lovers category. I've not actually scrolled this far because usually when I come to Crunchyroll, it's just straight to the queue for me, or I am looking for something very specific that I already know the name of. Yeah, and this takes us all the way back to the bottom where we can see their social media platforms, site navigation, about stuff, profile things, and at the top here we have the browse, which just shows us all of our things that we can find. I think they only pretty much have anime. Music videos and concerts. Okay, so they have some music videos and concert things, which is pretty cool. I've not actually been to this page ever in my life, but that is honestly really cool that they have that. I know a lot of anime fans are also into music, and some anime conventions bring musical artists from Japan to perform, which is pretty cool. I know Anime Week in Atlanta does that. Anime game. They have a games. How have I literally never noticed this? Literally never noticed this. I use this website all the time. You can tell I'm very tunnel vision, but they do still have games. They have games on their phone. That's so funny. Okay. And they have their news up here. Events and experiences, anime awards. Yeah, Crunchyroll does an award show. I didn't really bring that up in the video, but they have an award show. It's somewhat controversial, but honestly, like, I think it's in good fun. I don't think it's actually that serious. These are the ones that won the most recent one. Of course, Jujutsu Kaisen. Of course. Of course, of course. Yeah, not Oshinoko winning things, and it's not even on this platform. That was one thing that anime fans were very, very upset about in recent years. Because it's like, come on, Crunchyroll, how can you fumble the biggest anime of the season it aired in? Yeah, that's basically it. There's not really any social... I thought I doxed myself there for a second. There's not really any social elements to Crunchyroll anymore. There definitely used to be. We saw the forums and we know there was a comments, but let me just, I don't know, bring out Black Butler. Yeah, used to be, there would be comments here. I think most people watching this video probably know that. But you can still like or dislike, not 16 people disliking this silly, lighthearted episode that I guess you only consider important if you've read the manga and are also like Black Butler autism like I am. But yeah, no more comments. Crunchyroll said you cannot talk to each other. During the early and mid-2010s, there was a big push to support as much legal anime and manga distribution as you possibly could. Fans wanted to support the increased accessibility, and we also wanted to support our favorite series, ignoring the fact that a lot of the money in the anime industry comes from merchandising and like DVD, Blu-ray releases, basically physical media and goods. Streaming was the new thing, and watching a bunch of ads or paying $8 a month or however much Crunchyroll premium memberships cost was much, much cheaper than buying the $50 DVDs and Blu-rays, and it all just adds up. And also the hundreds that you're probably spending on merch, which those of us who could afford it were totally doing literally all of the above. DVDs, Crunchyroll subscription, merch. It's expensive being autistic. I know not every anime fan is autistic, but it's a joke. But there was this push to not rely so heavily on pirating media within the fan community, to support this growing global market and show that international fans of anime were worth investing in. And Crunchyroll held the torch for legal anime streaming. Sure, you could watch anime on Netflix, and around 2011 they actually had a pretty decent selection of titles. Or at least it felt like it to me at the time. But that wasn't the main draw of Netflix, and Netflix also was not prioritizing anime either. So Crunchyroll was kind of like the only place you could watch new titles that were currently airing. Crunchyroll did the whole like simulcasting thing, so like the day the episode aired in Japan, Crunchyroll would subtitle it and release it, usually within a few hours of the show being out. So English-speaking fans were no longer having to scour the internet for raws or anything, and they were able to watch the shows and not be spoiled by fans who could understand Japanese or fans who just watched the raw episodes. When I say raw here, I basically just mean the original episode without subtitles or anything like that. Crunchyroll was cementing itself as the anime streaming platform. It was the it girl for the anime community. I remember watching anime YouTubers in the mid-2010s and seeing them sponsored by Crunchyroll. I mean, Crunchyroll even sponsored creators like Dan and Phil, people who had never really talked about anime. Their content just centered around their daily lives and misfortunes and just nothing really related to anime, but they were nerdy enough and their fan base was nerdy enough that it was a fair assumption that the viewers would be interested in anime. There was a little bit of an overlap. I just thought it was funny that they were sponsoring YouTubers who never talked about anime. They just had anime merch in the background of their videos. Crunchyroll had pretty much been building their brand from day one, but now that they were a legit company and had investors, they were making themselves known. They were even sponsoring anime conventions and offering freebies to con-goers, and I think you also got like extra freebies and swag if you were a premium member. I remember seeing signs about that, but that did kind of go away once I actually started paying for Crunchyroll, so I don't really know what that was about. I just know the anime conventions in Atlanta had stuff about it, or like signs about it in 2016 and 2017. And I have not really seen them since then. But also, there's a little bit more variety in companies that sponsor anime conventions now. It's no longer just Crunchyroll. If you'll humor me for just a moment, I have con badges dating back to 2016, and the earliest ones have Crunchyroll lanyards because Crunchyroll was a sponsor. However, in 2019, Anime Weekend Atlanta, which had previously been sponsored by Crunchyroll almost every single year I went, was now sponsored by High Dive, Crunchyroll's main competition. And then I think MomoCon one year, by 1 year I mean like a year or two ago, was sponsored by Viz. Yeah, you can see, or you can't see because it's not focusing. It's focusing on my face. Wait. There you go. Yeah, it's sponsored by Viz. See, do I have any other? What was this? Anime Weekend Atlanta 2021 was sponsored by Lupin the Third. Sentai is the company. Crunchyroll is losing its monopoly on brand awareness when it comes to anime conventions, although they're definitely still there. They're just no longer on the lanyards as much. I mean, MomoCon of this year, the lanyards were literally just MomoCon themed. So, we no longer have sponsored lanyards, which it doesn't really matter. I don't even use the lanyards they give us anyway, because I have my own that I put on there. We're completely off topic. Not only was Crunchyroll hosting anime online in the 2010s and before and after, they also started to dabble in DVD and Blu-ray releases, digital manga, merch, and eventually the production of anime. Crunchyroll does have a merch store. That's where I bought my Abakio Nindroid. I paid way too much for him now that I know they're not as expensive when you go to the Good Smile company directly, especially the Japanese website. I think it is slightly cheaper to pay the $20 shipping and use the Japanese website than it is to buy from the English website. So, if you're into collecting Nindroids, or anything from Good Smile, there you go. But Crunchyroll was facilitating the sales of anime merch, DVDs, physical just goods, and they also had a manga section or like a manga app, although I don't think that particularly took off They didn't have that many titles the one time I actually looked at it. But it did utilize your premium subscription, so like if it's worth it to, I guess, give it a look if you're already paying for it. Part of building a brand can also be making a mascot. Plenty of brands have them, and boy does Crunchyroll have a mascot. Meet Crunchyroll Hime. Yeah, she's pretty much the princess of Crunchyroll. The Hime suffix at the end literally just means princess. She was created in 2013, and her original design was actually from a fan art contest held in, I believe, 2012, where fans would make gajinkas, or humanized designs, of different anime companies. She is a humanized kitsune, a Japanese folklore creature that's basically a fox with paranormal abilities that get stronger as they grow older and wiser. Not only is she a mascot, but Crunchyroll Hime is essentially a whole character of her own. I mean, they even made a manga about her. Given a backstory and a personality, much like one would a character for a story, Crunchyroll Hime is an anime fan just like the rest of us. And she's got fun little trivia facts, like her favorite color being teal, and the fact that she has a huge crush on Hatsune Miku. She is so real for that. She also has a sister who moderates her YouTube channel. Yeah, Crunchyroll Hime is also a VTuber. I actually didn't know that until making this video. Crunchyroll, wanting to cash in on the VTubing craze that is pretty much overlapping with the anime community, officially debuted Crunchyroll Hime as a VTuber in 2021. However, she'd basically had appearances in VTuber form dating back to 2019, where she collaborated with Ai-chan. Y'all remember Ai-chan? Wasn't she like the first VTuber ever or something akin to that? She's completely like AI, which is why her name is Ai-chan. Wild. However, unlike Ai-chan, Crunchyroll Hime is played by a real person. After over 2 years of streaming and posting videos to YouTube, though, it looks like Crunchyroll Hime did move all content creation to Crunchyroll's main social media platforms. Consolidating things for whoever was the social media manager, I'm assuming, and making it less necessary for the real-life person behind Crunchyroll Hime to push out as much content as possible, or as much as she was before, because it looked like she was pretty active on her YouTube channel before the move. It's safe to say that over the years, Crunchyroll had marketing and building their name pretty much down pat. And I remember when I was in high school, that was basically the place to watch anime, as I've mentioned before. They tried to be a manga reading app as well, and it didn't take off. As I mentioned earlier, there just wasn't really much manga on there to begin with, so it was just never worth it to download it, to check it out, and then be disappointed. And also, they were a little bit ahead of their time because there wasn't really a lot of digital manga reading apps. Like the Viz app and the Shonen Jump app and the Kodansha app didn't exist yet. Like, that's relatively new. So Crunchyroll was a little bit ahead of their time, probably because manga piracy is huge and there used to be a ton of apps for manga piracy so you could read from the convenience of your phone, which was so slay, so cool. Loved it. But I'm also very, very glad there are ways to do that legally and conveniently. We love supporting artists. But despite the hiccups here and there, Crunchyroll as a brand was successfully implanted into the Western anime community. All they had to do was keep the consumers happy, and we'll just ignore the fact that for a period of time, their website hardly worked, the mobile apps wouldn't even load video. I don't even have it on my phone anymore, because in 2019, I was trying to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on the go, and it worked fine for a few weeks, and then it just suddenly stopped very consistently, like it was not an internet issue. The app just didn't work. And I've never been able, don't even get me started on trying to use Crunchyroll on an Amazon Fire Stick or a Roku thing. I haven't tried since like 2019 to do that. So if it works for you now, I'm genuinely so happy to hear that for you. At least Crunchyroll's always worked on my PlayStation. Yeah, one consistent complaint about Crunchyroll throughout the years is that even though their website design and utility used to be pretty decent. It just kind of deteriorated over time and just was not working super great. I remember part of why I started paying for Crunchyroll is because the ad breaks were like crashing the video player for me. That was part of why I started paying for it, because it's like, if it can't run ads, if the ads crash the video, like, I guess I have to just make the ads go away. We're still here. The anime community is in a love-hate relationship with Crunchyroll. After years of being one of the main platforms for watching anime, Crunchyroll was now a household name, despite any grievances users may have with the streaming service. But there were other companies who had gotten in on the anime streaming business, namely Funimation. If you're an English-speaking anime fan, then you definitely know Funimation. They're one of the main companies that distribute anime outside of Japan, and they're also known for their dubbing studio, basically. They dub like so much anime. They're like the main there for a while they were the main company dubbing anime. Good for them. Crunchyroll primarily had subtitled media on their platform, and eventually they did start to produce their own dubs. Funimation, however, was kind of known for dubbed anime. Crunchyroll had previously worked with Funimation in the past, hosting Funimation dubs, and in return, Funimation would host Crunchyroll dubs, which was pretty slay, and I think there was some deal worked out with Crunchyroll selling physical media, so like selling some of Funimation's things. Don't quote me on that last note, though. Quick thing to note, just real quick, Crunchyroll had swapped up ownership a few times in the past, being owned by companies like the Chernin Group, Warner Media, both of which were acquired by AT&T. So they were essentially owned by AT&T for several years. And then eventually, Crunchyroll was bought by Sony, who owns Funimation. This is what brought on the big merge with Funimation and Crunchyroll. In 2022, it was announced that Funimation's streaming service would be shutting down, and everything would be moving over to Crunchyroll's database. A somewhat controversial move, considering some fans preferred Funimation's website layout and functionality, and I think it might have actually worked better and more consistently than Crunchyroll did at the time, or at least how Crunchyroll has in the past. But there was also a huge point of confusion when it came to the year-long memberships people had already paid Funimation for. There were people out here who were noticing, like, hey, my Funimation membership that I have already paid like the entire year's worth for, is going to last longer than the streaming platform is going to last. There was a lot of upset about that. However, it ended up working out that Funimation memberships did get basically transferred to Crunchyroll memberships. At least that was the case for my friends who had Funimation memberships. So I think everything worked out, and after all the confusion died down, no one seemed to mind too much. Unless the dub you were looking for hadn't been moved to Crunchyroll's database yet, it seemed like there was a lot of issue there. And also, I don't know whose decision this was, but Crunchyroll lists different dubs as different seasons. So if you go to an anime that you know only has like 2 or 3 seasons, and it says it has 50 seasons, that's the dubs. That's the dubs. I don't know why it's like that, but it was. I guess it's just how things ported over from Funimation. It was very strange. I don't think they've fixed it yet. People still complain about that to this day. Over time, Sony merged Funimation and Crunchyroll into just one conglomerate company, opting to go with Crunchyroll's stronger branding, and calling this new combined company Crunchyroll LLC. One thing of note though, Funimation's streaming platform was subscription only. If you did not pay Funimation, at most you'd be able to watch the first episode of something, but nothing else other than trailers. This was pretty different from Crunchyroll's free with ads option, and not having early access. However, after the Funimation merge, Crunchyroll did announce that with the spring 2022 season, users could no longer watch the new series without paying for a subscription. taking away the early access paid and then getting it later free, and taking away the one thing that many users had previously loved about the platform: the ability to freely and legally watch and support the anime industry. Sure, it came with a ton of annoying ads, but that was better than having no access at all, right? Many people who couldn't afford the $8 a month or higher subscription costs were not happy about this change. And I know for some people, $8 a month does not sound like a lot. However, if you do not have a lot of money, that $8 is going to make a big difference. It can be the difference of being able to afford groceries that month, or not. That sentence did not come out super formed. But you get what I'm saying here, like, there's a lot of people where that $8 is a difference. It's not like pocket money for some people. It's also just kind of wild to go from a pirating website to a subscription-only streaming platform. People who had been using Crunchyroll for years without paying actual money were not only upset, they were abandoned. Yeah, I know watching ads isn't as profitable as a monthly subscription. I'm well aware ad revenue isn't as lucrative as one might think. I mean, I literally monetize my YouTube videos and I stream on Twitch. I see that unless you have millions of eyes on the ads, on your content, you're not going to make as much money through ads as you are subscriptions. So I do understand why this decision was made, but it also sucks for the consumers and completely leaves out a group of people who the company is now making $0 off of, instead of the pennies or dollars pocket change they would have earned from advertisers. Because not everyone can and will jump onto buying the subscription. If you take away free viewing with ads, then people are just going to turn back to piracy, because some people literally cannot afford the subscription. And if they would rather watch the ads than pay, and when you take it away, if they could afford it but they didn't want to, you're still basically losing out money because you thought there was something there that wasn't. But anyway, I'm no business major. I am just a person on the internet talking about anime and an anime streaming platform. But the controversies don't just end there. One thing that came out around the same time as the merge, maybe slightly after, was the company's low pay and basically exploitive nature coming to light. When Mob Psycho Season 3 was set to come out, Crunchyroll ultimately made the decision to recast the English dub voice actor for the main character. The original actor, Kyle McCarley, was a member of SAG-AFTRA. If you don't know how unions work in the entertainment industry, basically, union members primarily work on union productions. However, you can work on non-union productions if certain criteria are met. Usually it's related to pay and work hours and just like being a good environment to work in. And if I remember correctly, there may also be a limit on how many non-union productions you can work on as a union member, but at this point, I'm just recalling what was taught to me in college, and that was not the actors union, it was more production workers, like camera operators and stuff like that. So it might be different for SAG-AFTRA. Kyle McCarley just wanted to sit down and talk with Crunchyroll about implementing union contracts. He wasn't asking for union pay rates, which were typically higher than non-union pay rates. He wasn't asking for Crunchyroll to up and join the union or anything. He was just hoping to sit down and have an open discussion about the possibility of having contracts. Instead, the company essentially fired him and ignored it. This upset fans because not only was it scummy, but also, who recast the main character for the final season? But then also, yeah, it is really scummy. Do you really want to be that person that doesn't want to pay people fair wages? Because that's kind of what the company is doing. That's kind of the impression they're giving people. And this whole scenario opened the floodgates for discussion about how little many actors were being paid. One actor only got paid $150 for a role, and there were no residuals. Traditionally, in entertainment, actors will continue to make money from a role through residuals, which is basically money coming in through reruns and stuff like that. Reruns on TV, like a TV series being syndicated to air on another channel after the fact, things like that. But with streaming online, people involved with producing media are essentially getting screwed out of what they're owed. Why should streaming platforms continue to profit off of someone else's work and not share a cut with the writers, actors, or anyone who brought this work to life and who would traditionally get residuals? Because you don't get residuals from streaming, or at least most people don't. And this is not a problem exclusive to Crunchyroll or Funimation or Sony. It's an issue across the entire entertainment industry, and was a huge factor in the actors' strike that happened in the US during the summer of 2023. So this isn't entirely a Crunchyroll thing, this is an industry problem at large of, like, entertainment industry. But like any big controversy on the internet, the outrage died down and anime fans went back to watching their favorite shows on our beloved or beloathed anime streaming platform, and things went pretty quiet for a while. However, that changed in September of 2023 when news broke that Right Stuff, a website that sold anime, manga, and related merch at a slightly cheaper than retail price, was closing down and moving all of their stock onto the Crunchyroll store page. Anime fans were honestly pretty upset, worried what that meant for the pricing, and concerned at the growing monopoly that the Crunchyroll company was creating. Crunchyroll had actually acquired Right Stuff back in 2022, but I guess it takes time to facilitate a merge and for the general public to really find out and be affected. After the merge made itself apparent, and it was actually affecting consumers, people started talking very critically about Crunchyroll building a monopoly. With the Funimation merge, there was somewhat of a genuine monopoly created on streaming anime. I say somewhat because there were other options. There is at least one other well-known anime streaming platform that was established in 2017, which is HiDive, the main competitor to Crunchyroll. So we don't really have a solid monopoly yet, but one source of competition isn't ideal in terms of protecting consumers and keeping monopolies from being a thing. And why does that matter? Again, I'm not a business major, but the long and short of it is if a company has a monopoly over a certain market, then they can essentially do whatever they want, screwing over the customer, price gouging, and since they're the only option, no harm will come to the company. And if one company owns everything, it becomes near impossible for people to withdraw their dollars and boycott. I mean, just look at Disney, the main mega corporation that most people think of when talking about monopolies. I know in terms of non-essential things like anime and anime merchandise, this all feels a bit silly and maybe even a bit fear-mongering, because if a true monopoly forms and things just really go that bad and we get really screwed over, we as anime fans can just not buy our silly overpriced plastic figures and go back to piracy for shows. And yeah, that is true, and definitely the way that a lot of people are doing, minus the not buying figures. But is that really a world we want to live in? Things are already taking a downturn with the underpaid actors and mistreatment of translators. By the way, yeah, I forgot to mention, the most recent upset is that Crunchyroll is looking into using AI to translate and subtitle anime instead of paying real humans that they already were supposedly underpaying and exploiting to do the work. Work that people are going to end up having to come behind the AI to clean up anyway. People are very hostile towards artificial intelligence and AI and all that right now. Generative AI mostly. Especially in industries where people's passion jobs are at risk of going away due to the use of AI. We want computers and robots to do the undesirable things like, I don't know, sorting trash or washing dishes, not writing stories and doing artwork and translating. I think some people are passionate about translating. It seems fun. We don't want AI to take away the jobs that people actually want to do. And AI taking away jobs right now in the current job economy where it sucks and you can't really find much of anything is not great. Good luck to those translators, I guess. There's also just the issue that AI eats up a huge amount of resources with its energy consumption, which is pretty bad for those of us that have to live on this planet that's being destroyed for the whims of corporations. But this video is about an anime streaming platform, not about environmentalism or AI. But that is the most recent, genuine upset towards Crunchyroll right now. Needless to say, fan perception of Crunchyroll has soured a bit over the years. No one likes a company that has seemingly forgotten its roots. No one likes a company that's seeking out to be a monopoly, and no one likes a company that exploits its workers and is hostile toward the unions, ultimately making it difficult to maintain healthy working conditions for those in the industry that we love so much. Crunchyroll isn't a perfect company. I mean, just recently there was also the whole thing about Crunchyroll removing the ability to comment instead of banning hateful users after the fiasco surrounding Twilight Out of Focus. Instead of actually handling the hateful and homophobic comments, we just get rid of the feature altogether? Okay, yeah, that's a choice, I guess. But like every major screw-up that has upset the community and Crunchyroll's user base, I'm sure that fans will eventually forget or get over it, moving on and continuing to benefit from our favorite media being more accessible to the general public. I wonder if the AI subtitle thing will be the straw that breaks the camel's back though, but we'll see. That's still a developing thing. If they actually go through with it, we might see a change. Who knows? I'm not a fortune teller. I know I didn't dive into the nitty-gritty of business, but I'll be so real, when I was reading all the information about swapping owners and all that, my eyes just kind of glazed over, and it's okay, yeah, they owned this and then they owned this for a while and this and this and this happened. I mostly just wanted to look at Crunchyroll from the user standpoint, not really the behind the scenes of business practices, because I don't really know a whole lot about business in general, if that's not abundantly clear. But I hope you guys enjoyed this look back and somewhat of a deep dive into Crunchyroll as a platform and how far it's come over the past almost 20 years. Wild. Absolutely wild. I just kind of did that math. Yeah, have you guys been using Crunchyroll since its piracy days? When I was scripting this video, I thought I was, but after looking on the Wayback Machine, I realized the website that I was thinking of, that only lets you watch 75 minutes of video at a time without paying for it, was not actually Crunchyroll. It was probably something else that was also just orange in branding. It had a different layout, from what I remember. But anyway, that's been it for me. If you guys like anime or Baldur's Gate, you should stick around. I talk a lot about anime, primarily Black Butler, but I'm trying to force you guys to listen to me to talk about other things. There's also a lot of Baldur's Gate on this channel, although I don't know how many more Baldur's Gate videos I can squeeze out of that game before I run out of things to talk about. But anyway, I'm Mel. This has been my little self-indulgent, wow, so crazy that we started from piracy and ended up here journey. I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!